I'd like to introduce and welcome Chief Mark Montmany again here for our Lunch and Learn. So welcome, Chief. And also want to welcome Michele Ellicks from Massachusetts Department of Transportation. So Michelle's going to be talking to us as well today. So great. So let's do a moment of silence before lunch, please. Very good. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch. And we'll have Chief and Michele be coming up after we're all served. Thank you.
The first one is, I hope I pronounced this right, Shirley Schultzberg, who is 90. Is that true? 90? Congratulations. And there's one other. Our own Frank Susky is 92 in a couple of weeks. Now, I have a small present for each of them. Does everybody know what a challenge coin is? No. Challenge coin, okay. Yeah. Those of you who are in the military might know what a challenge coin is, but basically, each unit in the military used to make up their own coin, and everybody had the coin in their pocket. And the reason it was called a challenge coin is because if you were challenged by your teammates, the people in your unit, to produce your coin, and you didn't have it, you had to buy the round. So I just want to make sure that Shirley and Frank don't have to buy a round. So I am going to give the police department has its own challenge coin, and I'm going to give one to each of them. Congratulations to both of them. Also, I would like to introduce to you our guest speaker. I'm going to say this wrong as well. This is Michele Ellicks, yes, from the Registry of Motor Vehicles, is going to talk to you a little bit about Real ID, and then I think she's going to stick around a little bit afterwards in case anybody has any questions. Okay?
No PowerPoint. Thank you so much, Chief. And thank you so much to the folks at the Uxbridge Council on Aging, too. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And it was nice to meet a lot of you before we officially started. So I know some of you had great success at the Registry of Motor Vehicles, renewing your driver's licenses and renewing your ID cards, so that's wonderful news. So I'm here to talk to you today about some exciting changes at the Registry. And as you know, the Registry of Motor Vehicles is now able to issue a federally compliant credential. And by the word credential, what I mean is a driver's license or a Massachusetts ID card. So a federally compliant credential will allow a person to board an airplane, to fly within the United States, starting October 1st of the year 2020. So the Registry of Motor Vehicles is able to issue this thing called a Real ID. And the Real ID, again, means it's a federally compliant driver's license or a federally compliant Massachusetts ID card that's starting in the year 2020, on October 1st of the year 2020, the only way a person will be able to board an airplane to fly within the United States is to show either a Real ID compliant driver's license or a Real ID compliant Massachusetts ID card or a valid passport, okay? So again, that's not going to happen until October 1st of the year 2020. Now, right now, if you were to board an airplane and to fly within the United States, you would not have to show either a valid passport or a Real ID compliant credential. You would just show your standard driver's license or your standard ID card, and on the plane you go. But because of the Homeland Security Act, which really is a result of 9/11, So back in 2001, 9/11 happened, and Congress created something called the Homeland Security Act. And part of that Homeland Security Act is this thing called the Real ID Act. And the Real ID, it's a federal mandate, so every state in the United States is complying with the Real ID Act and all of the requirements that are part of the Real ID Act. And yes, so it's not just unique to Massachusetts. Every state within the United States, their DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, or the Registry of Motor Vehicles, will be able to issue two kinds of credentials. A Real ID federally compliant credential, as well as a standard level of credential. So the question for you to ask yourselves is, do I plan to fly within the United States anytime after October 1st of the year 2020? And if the answer is yes, I think I would like to fly within the United States anytime after October 1st, 2020, well then you will need to have either a valid passport, a valid passport card, a Department of Defense military ID. There are a couple other documents that will also allow a person to board an airplane, like a transportation worker card called the TWIC card. This is an extensive list on the Homeland Security website. But anyway, most folks will be carrying either a Real ID compliant driver's license, or a Real ID compliant Massachusetts ID card, or a valid passport. So that's the thing. Keep in mind, if you don't plan on flying, you'll never need to have a Real ID. As well as there's another situation where a person, starting October 1st, 2020, will have to show either a valid passport or a Real ID. Anyone know what facilities will require that? In addition to trying to board an airplane to fly within the United States, there are certain certain federal office buildings, that's right, certain federal office buildings that have a security desk at the entrance. That's the key right there. So, of course, the United States Post Office, well, that's a federal office building, but that's not a secure federal office building. So you're not going to need to show a passport or a Real ID to get into the post office. You just walk in as you always do, and that will not change. However, certain federal office buildings, like federal courthouses, they have a security desk right at the entrance. So starting October 1st of the year 2020, if you need to enter certain federal office buildings that have a security desk, you're going to need to show either a valid passport or a Real ID. So that's another question that you could ask yourself. Well, do I have any need to go into secure-based federal office buildings anytime after October 1st of the year 2020? And if the answer is yes, well, you're going to have to bring with you a valid passport or a Real ID. So that's what a Real ID is. And to look at it, to look at your driver's license and to determine if it is a standard level of driver's license or a Real ID compliant, federally compliant driver's license, you would see a little white star in the top right corner of your ID card or on your license. So a little white star, top right-hand corner, that tells us, or that tells the security officials that your driver's license or your Massachusetts ID card is a federally compliant credential. And that will allow you to board an airplane or enter secure buildings anytime after October 1st of the year 2020. So that's what a Real ID is, and again, to look at it, there's a little star in the top right-hand corner. And so for those who are interested in getting one, I passed out a really helpful checklist, and there are copies on everybody's table. And this checklist will help you when it's time for you to renew your driver's license, because there's a step that we all need to take in terms of renewing our driver's licenses or renewing our Massachusetts ID cards, and I'll explain it as we go through this checklist. I also want to bring your attention to another document that I passed out, and this is our website. This is our website card. So for those of you who go online and you like to do online transactions, make sure that you go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles official website, which is mass.gov/RMV. If you went online and you just did a search, you just plugged in Mass DMV, you'll see there might be a few mimic websites that pop up ahead of us. So always pay special attention when you do go online. Make sure you are on the official Registry of Motor Vehicles website, which again is mass.gov/RMV. Be very careful of that, okay? But you'll see on this card, we have close to 30 different transactions that a person might be able to conduct online, because we want you to save time. We know you're all busy, and we want you to be able to avoid going into the registry if you don't have to go into the registry. So what are some of the things that you could do online and not have to go to the registry? Well, you can update your address. So if you have moved, and you don't need to go into the registry anytime soon, but if you have moved within Massachusetts, you can go online and update your address on the registry's website. And that way, any mailings that we send to you will go to your current address. You can cancel license plates online. You don't have to come into the Registry of Motor Vehicles to cancel license plates. You can do it online, and then you can destroy your plates or recycle them or keep them in a safe place. Yeah, you can, yep. Because years ago we were looking at why are the lines long at the registry, and this was about 4 years ago, and we did a survey why people are waiting in line, and we found that we had close to 20,000 people coming to us a year just to hand us their canceled plates. And we thought, well, you know what, that's not a transaction that must be done in the registry. So now you can cancel your plates online. You destroy your plates. There are direction-specific instructions on what to do with your plates. So things like that. Becoming an organ donor, you can do that online. There are lots of things. Renewing your registration for your vehicle. Some of you might even be eligible to renew your driver's license online. Now, what state law requires here in Massachusetts is, if a person's license expires and they are 75 years old or older, they must come into a Registry of Motor Vehicles in person and take an eye test and renew the driver's license. Or they must go into a AAA office that's set up like a Registry of Motor Vehicles and take an eye test in order to renew their driver's license. But you have to be a member of AAA if you're going to go to AAA to renew your driver's license. But so again, once you turn 75, anytime your license expires from age 75 onward, you can no longer renew that driver's license online. You must come in every 5 years and pass an eye test, and we'll take your photo again. So keep that in mind. That being said, those of you who are 75 or older, you can still go online first. Fill out your application, do some things ahead of time, and that will save you a lot of time at the Registry of Motor Vehicles or at AAA. So always go online first and see what you can get done. And then the computer will tell you. The computer will tell you whether or not you can complete that transaction online. So any questions about what is a real ID? Why would I need one? And when will I need one? If I want to fly, what's the date? to remember? 2020. Yes, October 1st, 2020. So think 10-20-20. That's when, if you plan on flying, you're going to need to, within the United States, need to clarify that, within the United States, you're going to have to show a real ID compliant driver's license, a real ID compliant ID card, or a valid passport, okay? Yes, yeah.
ID, so I don't have to renew my regular license for a while. And if I wanted to get the real ID
Yeah.
now, is it the exact same process as getting a regular license, go through an eye test, all of those things?
You would have to provide documentation. Here's a great question, and I'll repeat it for everyone in the room. So if you've renewed your driver's license recently, and you're not eligible to renew anytime soon, right? Because when you renew your driver's license, you get your new driver's license that's good for 5 years. So if you want to get a real ID and you're not eligible to renew, you can come into the registry or to AAA anytime, any day that we're open, or that AAA is open, pay $25, and you can turn your standard level of driver's license into a real ID by bringing in the required documentation. So there are a couple extra steps that you would have to take, and I'll go through that step by step in order to get a real ID. But again, you can do it anytime, and you would have to pay $25 to replace your current driver's license with a new real ID driver's license. It will still expire, it's going to expire on your current license's expiration date. So you're really just turning that current license into a real ID. Yeah, and that costs $25. Now, let's say you don't plan on flying anytime soon, and your license is due to expire, let's say in 2020. No, let's say 2022. All right? So you can, if you have a passport, well, you certainly could use a passport to get on that plane. But if you don't need to get a real ID anytime soon, you can do it during your renewal phase. And what's your renewal phase? 12 months prior to your expiration date on your driver's license. So that's nice news too. So a lot of people think you have to renew within 1 month of the expiration date. You can renew your driver's license or your Mass ID card within 12 months of the expiration date. Keep that in mind. Because why do we do that? Because everybody's busy. You might not even be in Massachusetts when your license is up for renewal. So you have 12 months before it expires to renew your driver's license. Now, if you do come in to us early, let's say you come in and your license doesn't expire for 10 months. Okay, so you come into us, here's a scenario. My driver's license is going to expire on October 1st of the year 2019. I can go in today if I wanted to. I'm eligible to renew because that's within 12 months of the expiration date. Now, I'm going to walk out of that registry with a driver's license that's going to be based on my expiration date, not on the date I come into the registry. So it's going to expire. So if I said it expires October 1st, 2019, I'll walk out of there with a new driver's license that's going to be good for until 2019 plus 5 is 2024, right? So we're going to build that extra time in to your new driver's license. So if you come in 10 months before it expires, we're not going to take away that extra time. We're going to build it into your new license and base your new license on your current expiration date, okay? 5 years plus that current expiration date, okay? So again, you can get a real ID during renewal phase, which is 12 months before your license expires, or if you're not eligible to renew anytime soon, you can come on in, pay $25 to replace that current driver's license and turn it into a real ID. So, does anybody know how much it costs to renew a driver's license? Yes, $50. Does anybody know how much it costs to renew a Massachusetts ID card? 25. Yeah. So the ID card is half the price of a driver's license. And remember, we can issue a Real ID compliant Massachusetts ID card, as well as a standard issue Massachusetts ID card. The difference is that standard level of ID is not going to get you on a plane. It's got to be the Real ID if you want to get on a plane. Yes?
Yes, myself, I'm retired military, so my ID can still be done.
If it's as long as it's a Department of Defense, yes, yes, and it has your picture, yes.
I was there Friday, because mine expired Friday and I couldn't get it.
Oh.
Because you need your marriage license and you also need, I had the birth certificate from Chelsea Naval. It wasn't accepted. You have to have a little card from the clerk.
And that's why, thanks to Gail, and thanks to Liz, and thanks to the chief, it is Liz, right? Lisa, I'm sorry. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So people are going to be prepared when they go in to renew their driver's license. So first of all, thank you for your service too. Thank you very much. So we will get to what is exactly required as soon as I know everybody now understands what is a Real ID. If I want one, how do I get one? Again, at the registry or at AAA, but you got to be a AAA member if you're going to go to AAA. How much does it cost? If you have a driver's license, it will cost $50 if you do it at renewal time. If you have a Massachusetts ID card, it costs $25 to renew a Mass ID. So let's get to it then. That's a great question and a great segue. Oops, one more question? Yes.
Can Gail do the Real ID card?
Can Gail do the Real ID? Gail will be able to help you fill out your application and maybe do a few steps online, but she cannot issue you a Real ID. She can help you get ready online if you're eligible to get ready online. So I would say if Gail has, the time and availability, and if you make an appointment or if she's comfortable doing this, she may be able to assist you to get ready online, which means you might be able to fill out your application online. Or she might be able to print out a paper application for you, and that way you could fill it out ahead of time. That's going to save time too. Instead of going into the registry, waiting in line, getting a paper application, sitting back down, filling it out, and getting back in line, you could ask Gail or Lisa or one of the staff here to maybe print out an application for you, and you can fill it out ahead of time before you come in. So thanks so much to the COAs, because they provide so much support to the folks in the community. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So let me take one more question, and then we'll get on to what is required, because I need to be mindful of your time as well. So did you have your hand up?
Yeah, my birthday's Sunday, and I'm no longer driving anymore, so I need a Real ID.
Perfect.
Now, it expires on Sunday.
Okay. Okay.
What's the timeline for me getting something?
Sure. Well, okay, so happy birthday, first of all, a couple days early. So when you can come into the Registry of Motor Vehicles and apply, you fill out the application and just check off that you want the ID card. Now, the only thing is that you will not be able to use your current driver's license as a proof of mass residency.
Yeah.
But we accept 25 to 30 other documents. So I'll get to that step. So you won't have any issue at all as long as you have the acceptable documentation, and I'll get to what that is. So again, a good segue into this section. And it will cost you $25 as opposed to $50. So yes, great. All right, so let's get to it, the checklist. And first of all, thank you so much to the high school students. Thank you for all the work, and I know everybody appreciates it. And it's just so wonderful. Great work, great people. We're happy to have them here. So anyway, this sheet of paper is called What Documents Do I Need? And this is something that the registry put together, and we've been updating it as the federal government tells us to. So again, this policy is a federal requirement, and it was, believe it or not, it was created back in 2005. So the Congress of 2005 created the Real ID Act. And it's, you know, it's taken some time for the states to comply. We've had to overhaul our entire licensing system. And some states haven't been able to do it yet, but they almost comply by 2020. So this checklist says, first of all, what documents do I need? And it says, if you are missing a document, you will not be successful. And we hate to have to turn people away. We want you to come to us and get what you need, because licenses and ID cards are critical to your quality of life. So we want to make sure that we're able to issue you what you need, but we must comply with the federal government mandate of Real ID. So it says all documents must be originals. Photocopies will not be accepted. Also, it goes on to say, and I'm reading the top box on page 1, which has the paragraph at the top. Laminated documents will also not be acceptable, okay? So laminated documents will not be accepted. And then it says, get ready online for faster service at mass.gov/ID. Now, that website is part of our website, but it's more the Real ID specific information and the Homeland Security Act information. So you can go to either mass.gov/ID or mass.gov/RMV, and you'll find this checklist there. So the first step for any one of us to renew our driver's license, to apply for a license, to renew a Massachusetts ID card, or to apply for a new ID card, we must prove lawful presence. And you'll see that is the top box on the first page. And the top box is titled Proof of Lawful Presence and Proof of Date of Birth. And it goes on to say all documents must be valid and unexpired in order for us to be able to accept it. And then it says, check 1. So, the documents you can bring in to prove lawful presence there are several actually. You only need to bring in 1. You could bring in a valid US passport or a valid passport card. But if you don't have that, that's okay. We accept a lot of others. You could bring in your original birth certificate or a certified version of your birth certificate. Now be very careful when you if you're going to use your birth certificate. Again, it has to be the original or a certified version. And it must be issued by the town or the city in which you were born. So we cannot accept hospital certificates. We cannot accept baptismal certificates. It must be your birth certificate that was issued by your city or your town where you were born. Now, if you cannot find your birth certificate, let's say, call your town clerk and ask him or her to send you a certified version of your birth certificate. We've worked with all the town clerks and city clerks in the state, and they are all aware that folks now need to prove lawful presence to renew their driver's licenses and renew their ID cards. So the town clerks have been very busy lately trying to get people certified versions of their birth certificates. So well then bring your birth certificate in to prove lawful presence. And then the list goes on. We can also accept a consular report of birth abroad. So if somebody was born in another country and has their consular report of birth abroad issued by the Department of State, well, that proves lawful presence. Another document that would prove lawful presence is a green card, otherwise known as what's listed here, a permanent resident card. A temporary I-551 stamp in a foreign passport. That will prove lawful presence. An employment authorization. That's a document that proves lawful presence. So, and I won't go through the entire list, but you get the picture. There are lots of documents that a person could use to prove lawful presence. You only need to bring in 1 of those to prove lawful presence. Once we have you in our registry system as proving lawful presence and that your birth certificate or your passport or your green card, whatever you bring to us, has verified with the national system, That's indicated right on your profile. So when you pull up your profile online the next time, it will say lawful presence document verified, okay? So that's a step that some of you might be able to do online ahead of time. That's an example of a step that you might be able to get done ahead of time. My husband renewed his license recently. He went to Leominster and he was in and out in 13 minutes, believe it or not. He did some steps online. He used his current passport, he has a US passport, and used that as his lawful presence document, and he was able to type the serial number of that passport into our website, and it verifies electronically. So always go online first, see what you can get done ahead of time, and then print that application out and bring it with you. Because if you want to get a real ID, you must come in to see us, or you must go into AAA. If you don't want the real ID, you might be able to renew your license or your Mass ID card online if you want to maintain the standard level. So, okay, so here's a little bit of information to keep in mind. If the next box underneath the lawful presence box says name must match for real ID. So here you'll see, this is where the extra documentation comes into play. If you want the real ID and you bring to us a lawful presence document that has a different name than your current name, you also must bring in proof that you changed your name. And the documents that we can accept that will prove that you changed your name are listed right here. A marriage certificate issued by the municipality where you applied for your marriage license, okay? So not a marriage, not a bill from your reception, or I'm trying to think of things that people have brought in. Not a certificate from your church or your synagogue. It must be your marriage certificate that from the city or the town where you applied to get married, okay? Again, that's only if you want the real ID. Do you have to bring in proof that you changed your name? Now, let's say you got a divorce and you changed your name. Well, you'd have to bring in your divorce decree. Or let's say you changed your name from Michele to Mary, and you have a court document that proves that. Well, if I wanted real ID, I would need to bring that court document in that proves I changed my name. So bottom line is, look at the name, first and last name, on your lawful presence document. If it matches your current name, you don't have to bring in any additional documentation. But if the lawful presence document, the first and last name are different than your current name, bring in your marriage certificate or your divorce decree, or both, depending on what what has transpired in your life, or a court document that proves you changed your name. Okay? So, again, just as a little reminder, for the standard driver's license or ID card, proof of name change document is not required. Okay, it's only if you want the real ID. So, the next step is on the bottom of the first page, and it's proving your social security number. So for those of you who want the real ID, you need to bring in proof on paper of your social security number in the form of your social security card, not laminated. We cannot accept a laminated social security card, but if it is laminated, you'll see there are 5 other documents at the bottom of the page that will prove your social. Another one is a W-2 form that displays your 9-digit social on it. Another one is a 1099 form. We can accept that as long as it has your 9-digit social on it. We can also accept a non-Social Security Administration 1099, which lots of financial institutions give for 1099s out, so you could use that. You could use a pay stub that has your name and your 9-digit social on it. And last but not least, we'll accept a Social Security number denial notice. So again, if you want real ID, you've got to bring in proof of your Social Security number. If you do not have any of these to prove your Social Security number, contact SSA, and you can get a replacement of your Social Security. Let's say you laminated your card. Well, you can go online to SSA and they'll send you a free replacement. Or let's say you lost your Social Security card. Go online and SSA will send you a free replacement of your Social Security card. Now, if you don't want the real ID, you don't have to bring in anything from this bottom box to prove your Social Security number, okay? So, final step, if you don't mind turning your paper over, your checklist over. And your last step, you'll see a lot of documents listed on this. You only need to bring in one if you want the standard license or ID, or two from this entire list if you want a real ID. Okay, so what do we accept to prove Massachusetts residency? Well, let's make sure, look at the documents that you're going to bring in and make sure they show your name and your residential address, because we cannot accept pieces of mail that have your post office box on it or in care of. It has to have your name and your address. So what could you use to prove Mass residency? Your current unexpired driver's license. You could also use your current, or not both, but you could use a current unexpired Mass ID card. Those prove Massachusetts residency. You could also use a bill dated within 60 days of your visit to the registry. Down at the bottom in the first column, you'll see bills must be dated within 60 days. You could bring a utility bill. You could bring a credit card bill. You could bring a medical or a hospital statement, an insurance bill if it's your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance or auto insurance, a cell phone bill. I did skip one category above, which are state, federal, city, town issued pieces of mail, like an excise tax bill for your current year or your property tax bill. All of those documents prove Mass residency as long as they have your name and your address. Now, if they have your name and your spouse's name and your address, that's perfectly fine. As long as it has at least your name and your address, that is proof of Mass residency. And a few other things that people, that's on this list. Now listen, if it's not on this list, we cannot accept it, okay? So that's the bottom line, that this has come down from the federal government. Again, back in 2005, this was all created. But if it's not on this list, we cannot accept it. So that's everything. That's everything. And I know it's a lot to digest, and I understand if you could have questions. Gail and Lisa know how to get a hold of me. Your Milford Registry of Motor Vehicles and the AAA offices in the area are wonderful. They really are working hard to get what you need. So now I'd love to take questions if time allows. Okay, great. Yes, sir. Thanks for your patience.
You're welcome. I have a question on the bottom of the front page.
Okay.
Name must match the real.
Yes.
Even the backside. Can I go on the website and enter some of that information?
Yes, yes, you should be able to go online, and absolutely. Did you get a one of our website cards? Excellent. Yes, we really encourage everyone to go online first, select the tab that says Renew My Driver's License or Renew My Mass ID card, and then it will pop up a screen and you enter your information. Yes, great question. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know it myself.
Can you have a doctor, my eye doctor? He's got a piece of paper saying what my eyes are, my eye exam.
Okay.
We have to take it at the registry.
Okay, great. Okay, here's another great question, and I'll repeat it. So, as I mentioned earlier, the only way someone can renew their driver's license if they're 75 or older is they have to come into the registry and pass an eye test, or go into AAA and pass the eye test. If you prefer not to take that eye test, you can go to your eye doctor and get a form that's called a vision screening certificate. It has to be that form. We cannot just accept the doctor's letterhead, and I don't have forms with me, but a vision screening certificate we will accept from your eye doctor as long as it's dated within 1 year. of your visit to the registry, or dated within 1 year of your visit to AAA to renew. So again, it's a vision screening certificate. It must be completed by your eye doctor, and it must be dated within 1 year of your visit to the registry. Great question. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah, I was born in Milford Hospital, but my parents are residents of Uxbridge. I've always gotten a copy of my birth certificate in Uxbridge. So,
Interesting. Well, I would say take a look at your birth certificate. Make sure it's, if it's the original, and if it was issued by the town of Uxbridge, then I would say that is an
it says
acceptable.
on it, I was born in Milford.
Yeah,
I mean,
interesting.
I've always gotten a copy in Uxbridge.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, as long as it's the original, it sure would be. Yep, it sure would be. Yep, as long as it's an official birth certificate issued by the town or the city, and in your case, that would work. That would work. Yes. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Hi. What about the social security, like award letter? It does have your social security number on it as well as your current address.
No. Oh, are you talking to prove mass residency?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if it lists that. To prove Massachusetts residency, yes, we do list in the second column on the second page a current social security statement, as long as it includes your name and your residential address. Absolutely, that you can use to prove mass residency, but not to prove social security number. As you see, it's not listed for social. Great question. Yes, Chief, yeah.
If you have a real ID in another state and you come to Massachusetts, do you get another real ID?
This is another great question, and I'll repeat it. The Chief asked, if you have been issued a real ID in another state, and then you move to Massachusetts, will you be able to get a real ID or maintain that real ID? When you come to Massachusetts Registry to convert that out-of-state driver's license to a Mass license, even if it's real ID compliant, you will have to do your steps all over again. You will have to prove lawful presence again. Yep, that's what the federal government requires, that if you move out of state, even though you hold a real ID from your current state, you will have to prove lawful presence again. Now, that being said, Chief, things have been changing and been updated, so that's what's required today. If it changes, well, I'll be back again to notify you of any changes, Buckley. So, but yeah, at this point, even though you've proven lawful presence in another state, if you move to a different state, you gotta do it over again, okay? Oh, yeah, it's never a dull day at the registry.
Registry, you'll have fun.
We love the registry. Yeah, well, we love seeing you, but we want to make sure you get what you need, so, yes.
When you go online and you fill in these requirements.
Yes.
Does that just get everything into the system there, and you do have to go to the registry of
Yes.
vehicles? Okay.
Yes, here's another really good question. These are excellent. So, you start online, you go to the registry's website, you type in all your information, and you maybe are able to verify your lawful presence document, and maybe you're able to verify your social security number. Do you still have to bring all that documentation with you into the registry? Yes, if you want the real ID, yes. And the beautiful thing is the computer will tell you, print this application out, bring all your documentation with you to the registry or to AAA. And yeah, I would bring even the checklist too, because this will help the greeter at the front door. There's a greeter at our front door, and they will talk to you and say, okay, why are you here today? And they'll put you in the proper line. So if you're ready to go, you'll be in and out of there a whole lot quicker.
So I just renewed my license, they could maybe put my passport number in.
Yes, they do. Even though you don't want real ID, yeah, now we have to everyone must prove lawful presence, even if you don't want the real ID. Well, great, well, thank you. Oh, yes, one more question? Sure.
U.S. territories be included in continental United States?
Yes, very good. All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much again. Happy trails. Oh, sure.
if you get a real ID after 5 years, does that expire and you have to go through all this again?
Oh, that's, okay, it's a good question too. Okay, the answer is no. If you're staying in Massachusetts and you have a real ID from Massachusetts, you won't have to prove lawful presence again, and you will not have to prove social. Now, that's the current situation. Again, it could change, who knows, but I'm the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. But, it, you know, who knows? Things do change, but as of this time, no, you don't have to do it again if you're staying in Mass. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Thank you.